Hello everybody, Mousyy here. I've recently been giving advice and pointers in my Twitch chat, and a question I get asked a lot is, what are the top 10 best drift cars in the game? Truthfully, every car is balanced to the point where most cars are very good, but some simply outshine others with their superior abilities. So technically, a true top 10 list doesn't really exist, since what you prefer in a car is mostly opinion based. Although, in my opinion, there are specific cars that you really need to have if you want to improve at the game. So here we go. These are the cars I think everyone should have in their garage. First, a few things to remember when going over this list. Twitchy and floaty steering. The easiest way to describe this is that floaty cars take more time to transition drift from one side to the other, making them better at long tracks with big straights like Minnesota. Cars with twitchy steering are faster to transition from one side to the other, making them better at short tracks with lots of tight corners, like Mousyy for example. Wheelbase. A basic way of telling wheelbase is how much space there is between the front and back tire. So if I say this car has a long wheelbase, that means that the car is likely bigger and will be floatier with the steering inputs. And if I say this car has a short wheelbase, you know I mean that the car is smaller and probably twitchier with the inputs. Do-it-all car. What a do-it-all car does should be obvious by the name. There's a specific subset of cars in Redline drift that have quirks that can be effectively used on every map in the game. Therefore, I call them do-it-all cars. These kinds of cars can be twitchy or floaty, but mostly end up being more expensive cars. And finally, why isn't the Runa block on the list? As many of you may know, the fastest car in the game is definitely the beta tester car, the Runa block. Some of you may be wondering, why isn't this even included on the list? It's one of the fastest cars in the game. The reason for this is unfortunately the Runa block isn't really a drift car. It's an all-wheel drive car instead of a rear-wheel drive car, making it slide more like a rally car than like a drift car. The skills needed to drift it are completely different from every other car in the game, making it a genuine anomaly. With all of that out of the way, let's get started with our honorable mentions. The S14 is a fairly quick and responsive car, with relations to the 180SX and the Silvia. This car has fairly twitchy handling, and it's best on maps that have sharper corners and long sweeping bends. I honestly personally don't use this car a whole lot, but at $17,500 it's a very good deal. It's good on maps with high angle like Tokashi or Smotaki. This is definitely one to try if you like speedy drifts. The C3 Corvette is a floaty and very quick car that costs around $49,400. It's best on maps with long corners like Minnesota and Bowen, but can also be very effectively used on maps like Thoshu and Tokashi if the driver uses their gas pedal effectively. This old beauty is a very floaty but extremely consistent car with a pretty long wheelbase. I personally use this car quite a bit to practice my floaty car physics because I find it to be one of the most consistent floaty feeling cars in all of Redline. Cost may put some people off at around $50,000, but trust me when I say, if you like these types of cars, this might be one for you. The FT1 concept is an interesting find for myself. I hadn't used it very much after its release, but now that I'm beginning to try it again, I find that it's a very solid choice for a do-it-all car. It's decently fast, has a medium-long wheelbase, and somewhat twitchy, but very, very consistent. It is quite expensive at $119,500, but don't be shy of this amazing ride. That concludes our honorable mentions. This, again, is not a top 10 list, as I said before. This is my personal opinion, and if you disagree and have cars you'd like to see me give a shot some other time, please leave them in the comments, maybe we can make this even into a series. Also, there may be more than one car per slot on the list. This is because they either act very similarly or have similar strengths but on different maps. Now, let's get ourselves into the list. Starting us off at number 10, the JZX100 is a very stylish and long wheelbase car that feels extremely floaty while drifting but can be very twitchy while transitioning. And honestly, to me, feels like a more refined version of the S14 from earlier in this list. This beast's biggest strength is its fast transition speed. If mastered, you'll be able to get back into drift quicker than most other cars in the game, giving you an absolute advantage on things like tandeming and racing. Popular maps I'd recommend for this bad boy are more flowy ones like Thoshu, Bowen, or Tokushi to name a few. It's definitely not cheap at $71,000, but it's a very fun car to throw around, and it's got great competitive potential, so give it a try. The R34 Widebody is a recent addition to my personal favorites. It's a very consistent and quite speedy do-it-all car. It has a medium wheelbase, with the steering in between floaty and twitchy, and some of you may know it from my Twitch streams as the mixed skyline, cause I'm loving it. I prefer to use this Big Mac the most on tracks like Nissoda, Smotaki, and of course, Tokushi. It's the cheapest do-it-all car so far at $77,500. But believe me, we'll go way cheaper on the next entries in this list, starting with the Lada. Making this list might make some of you do a double take, but for those who have mastered it, they know it's insanely underrated. It's a small wheelbase car with a tiny price of only $8,500, and it can dominate cars that are way more expensive than it on maps like Smotaki and Halara. I wouldn't go as far as to call it a do-it-all car, but it's also very good on maps like Nissoda and Tokushi, for example. The Neon Light car, which is a 1991 Pontiac Firebird in real life for those who don't know, is one of the floatiest cars in the entire game. It's also quite quick when standing on throttle, which makes it perfect for maps like Bowen, Thoshu, and Nissoda. I think this long boy's biggest strength would be its extremely smooth drifts. You may have some trouble transitioning because its transition speed is very low, but once you find that sweet spot, this car is perfect for tandeming. I would say it's reasonably priced at $50,000, making it a very good deal for a stylish and consistent car. This V8 powered hunk of American muscle is an extremely quick and floaty medium wheelbase car that's almost the exact opposite of number 7 on the list. This car can oversteer quite violently if you're in any gear higher than 3rd, but with enough practice it can be a deadly weapon on tracks like Bowen and Nissoda because of its quick acceleration and high speed, making it a top contender for racing, but not so much tandeming. It doesn't cost much more than the Renarvo at $57,500, but it can be well worth the price tag if your aim is just flat out speed. This widebody beast is one of my personal favorites. Its semi-large wheelbase and great speed make it a perfect do-it-all car, and an extremely consistent one at that. I think the price can be a little much for some people at $68,500, but I seriously think that this is one of the ones that you do not want to skip for this list. The tracks I find it to be most consistent on would be the ones with big straights or big sweeping bends like Tokushi or Thoshu, but as I said, this thing will do it all. This beauty is a fan favorite and for good reason. The RX7 Widebody is an extremely stylish and very solid do-it-all car. It's got a very respectable price of $47,500, and with the car being most efficient on tracks like Smotaki, Tokushi, and Thoshu, it's understandable why a lot of people like it. It's also a very good choice if you're looking to improve your twitchy car physics, so give it a try. These cars are what I consider to be the best cheap do-it-all cars in all of Redline. Priced at $0 for the Silvia and $27,500 for the 180SX, they both have very similar strengths and weaknesses. The 180SX is a floaty medium wheelbase car that is extremely consistent and is perfect for tracks like Thoshu, where it can make long corners look like a cakewalk. Meanwhile, the Silvia is a twitchy medium wheelbase car that's also extremely consistent. I prefer to use it on tracks like Tokushi because of its great transition speed. Their biggest weakness is their average to below average speed, but with enough practice, conserving speed shouldn't be a giant issue. Since these are so amazingly cheap, you should definitely try at least one of them and see which one fits your driving style. With a combined cost of over $900,000, these hypercars are absolutely worth their price. The final double entry on this list, the Pagani Zonda R and the Mazda Furai, are cars I definitely didn't take seriously at first, but after enough time of comparing them, I'd say I'd be crazy if I didn't say that they're amazing do-it-all cars, if not the best two in the game besides their #1 spot. The Zonda is a floaty medium wheelbase car that's excellent for tracks like Minnesota, while the Furai is a twitchy medium wheelbase car that's amazing for tracks like Smotaki. They're both extremely expensive at $458,500 for the Zonda and $489,500 for the Furai, but I would say if you put the time into using them, they're 100% worth the in-game cash. This car, in my opinion, is the best do-it-all car in the entire game. It's very easy to control, the speed is up there with the best, including the Runa block, and can effortlessly shred on every single map in the game without a ton of practice. Want to do a long track and hold as much angle as possible near the wall? You can probably do that. Want to ride the inside line on Tokushi and beat almost any racer? It can probably do that. You want to tandem door to door and make it much easier than any other car in the game? It can probably do that. No matter what you throw at this thing, it just takes it and runs like it's Usain Bolt. It's one of the most expensive cars on the list at $199,999. Holy crap. But if you buy no other car on this list and listen to no other advice in this video, please try this crazy thing out and see what you think for yourself. And there we have it. I hope this shined a little light on some good cars to spend your hard-earned cash on. If you like this style of content, please be sure to like and subscribe, as well as share this video with somebody who might need it. I also have a Twitch channel where I do everything from high-level tandems to just giving advice and doing scored runs. I'm usually live from around 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, from Wednesdays to Sundays, for those who are interested. So pop by and say hi to everybody. I also have a Discord channel where I post exclusive content and behind-the-scenes looks at what I'm doing in the future. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, guys. If you made it to the end of the video, make sure to comment Mousyy. Peace.